أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. We'll just do a quick recap of ayah number 31. وَقُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنَاتِ يَغْضُضْنَ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِنَّ. And say to the believing women that they should lower their gaze. Lower their gaze from what? What should they not look at directly? Non-mahram men. Doesn't mean she's not allowed to look at them at all. What kind of gaze should be lowered? The lustful gaze, the one with desire. And this shows that to avoid such a gaze, what should a woman do? That every time she does have to look to a man, she does not take a good look at him. Whether it is in a personal conversation, or it is when dealing with a man at the store, or it is at school, or it is watching somebody say out the news on the television. Anything like that, when a woman is looking at a non-mahram man, what should she do? Not look at him, with a good look. I remember once somebody was watching the news on the television, and there was a girl, a young girl, she was watching, and her mom, she said, don't look like that. Don't look continuously and don't look like that. Meaning, yes, you may not even have feelings of attraction, however, you might find something attractive, so in order to avoid that, don't continue to look. Don't continue to stare at his face. Once you've had a look, okay, fine, that's sufficient. Then look away. Similarly, sometimes we're watching, let's say, a video of a scholar, a lecture. So, in that also, what should we do? Constantly stare at the lips and at the teeth and then start comparing with your husband's looks? No, that's not something that we should be doing. You look, okay, enough, sufficient. Look on the side, look away. Don't constantly stare at the face. Because sometimes what happens, if you constantly stare at the face of someone with admiration, it could also lead to evil eye. It could also lead to giving the other person evil eye. So avoid that. So first of all, يَغْضُضْنَ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِنَّ from looking at non-mahram men. Meaning with a gaze that is with desire, that is lustful. And in order to avoid that, what should a woman do? Look away, not take a good look. What else should women lower their gaze from? Looking at the awrah of another man or another woman. A woman is not allowed to look at the awrah of another man or another woman. Man obviously would be someone other than her husband. And remember that even when it comes to your own son, if he's an adult, if he has reached the age of puberty, you should not be looking at his awrah. Similarly, if it's your own daughter, if it's your own sister, if it's your own mother, unless it is for the reason of giving some care, otherwise it is not permissible. Because sometimes we think, she's my sister, what's the big deal? He's my brother, what's the big deal? But we see that we are not allowed to look at the awrah of other people. So, first of all, non-mahram men. Secondly, the awrah of other people. Thirdly, what else should women not look at? What else should they lower their gaze from? Any haram scene, where something unlawful is being done, or something is being done which you are not allowed to look at. So for example, if a man is dressed in a particular way, if he's with his wife, if a wife is with her husband, and they're holding hands together, we're not allowed to look at them. We're not allowed to spy at them. Because sometimes what happens, in some cultures when people get married, people literally make videos. And people will share those videos with others. Or they will peek into their private bedrooms to see what's going on. This is inappropriate behavior. Or for example, sometimes a married man and woman, they're living in the house. And sometimes, some of the relatives, they will just walk in. And when they'll just walk in without even taking permission, it's possible that they end up seeing something that is inappropriate for them to look at. So, 3 things are mainly included. First of all, non-mahram men. Secondly, the awrah of other people. And thirdly, things that we should not be looking at. Inappropriate things. It may be appropriate for others, but it's not appropriate for us. So for example, it's possible that you go out to the mall, you're out at the street, and 2 people are making out. Are you supposed to be staring at them? Should you be looking at them? No. Look away immediately. Don't say, oh my God, look at them, they have no shame, and continue to look at them. No, this is inappropriate. Unfortunately, what happens is that when we see again and again, we become so desensitized that it doesn't seem like a big deal. Recently, my grandmother, she came from Pakistan and she's visiting my uncle in the US. And I was talking to her the other day and she was so concerned, she was so worried. She's like, what's wrong with these people? that don't their priests and their religious leaders, don't they tell them how should they dress up, how should they behave with one another? She was so sad, in her tone, and she was so concerned. And unfortunately, because we see these things all the time, it's not a big deal for us. So, it's not a big deal for us because we continue to look, we don't lower our gaze. Because believe me, if you lower your gaze, if you look away from it, you would not want to look at it. Every time you even by mistake cast a glance on such a scene, you will feel shy. So, we need to develop this sensitivity in our hearts for such scenes, for such things, and we should not be looking at them, admiring them, or, looking at them out of shock. No, even out of shock, it's inappropriate. And if, for instance, if you're with your children, and if they happen to be looking at people doing certain things, what should you do? Stop them. Just like the Prophet ﷺ, he stopped his cousin from looking at the woman. Similarly, when it comes to little children, sometimes they're shocked that what's going on? I've never seen something like this. So when you see your children staring at something like that, stop them and tell them this is inappropriate, this is not right. So, first of all, the command is يَغْضُضْنَ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِنَّ. I think I mentioned to you once before as well that my niece, she was with her neighbors and they were playing together, the kids. And when the kid's mother, she came out, she was dressed inappropriately. So she asked her, why are you wearing shorts? Why are you wearing just a vest? She could not understand why could a person just be wearing underclothing and why are they not wearing complete clothing? So we have to instill this within our children as well from a very young age. Sometimes we take them to the mall at a time when people are dressed inappropriately and there's so many people. We get them so used to seeing wrong things that when they grow up, they don't have that haya. And when they don't have that haya, even they will not feel the importance of dressing appropriately. So this is very important. Instill this within children from a very young age. And this begins from the house. That even in your house, don't dress up in a way in front of your children that is inappropriate. Sometimes we say, oh, they're children, what's the big deal? But if your awra is showing before a child, although he's your child, above 2 years of age, it would be inappropriate. Because then he would not develop haya, she would not develop haya. So we see this is the responsibility of the parents, that they must develop feelings of haya in children by dressing appropriately, by telling them about what is right, what is wrong. Like for example, if you have to speak to a non-mahram man, you look at the face once and then you look at the shoulders, for instance. Or for example, if you're talking to someone, don't continuously look at their face. Look down, look up, look down, look away, look up. Did you see what I mean? You don't continuously stare, because the eye contact can lead to a lot of danger. The eye contact can be very dangerous. It removes the barrier of haya. Remember that the eye contact, it removes the barrier of haya. Once there is no barrier of haya, then he can say whatever he wants, she can say whatever she wants, and anything can happen after that. It can lead to worse things later on. So the first thing is, يَغْضُضْنَ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِنَّ. Secondly, وَيَحْفَظْنَ فُرُوجَهُنَّ, and they should guard their private parts. What does it mean by that? What should the women do? They should cover their private parts, meaning they should not expose them in front of other women as well. And this means that the shameful parts of the body, the parts of the body that must be covered, that should be covered, that should not be exposed, that should not be, you can say, highlighted by the dress that a woman is wearing, they should be covered up. And I mentioned this hadith earlier as well, that the Prophet ﷺ said, a man should not look at the private parts of another man, and a woman should not look at the private parts of another woman. So, in what situations is it that the private parts of a woman or the parts of the body that must be covered are exposed? In what situations? And first of all, let's identify them, and then we should be able to avoid such situations. So what situations are they? Not just the private parts, but the parts of the body that must be covered. The shameful parts. That's a different thing. Surgery, when a woman is giving birth, that's a different thing. That's understandable. That's permissible. But even in that case, remember that just because one part of the body has to be exposed, it doesn't mean that the entire body should be exposed. Like for instance, if a woman is expecting and she has to go, for an ultrasound or for some checkup, it doesn't mean that she bears all of her legs or her entire body, usually they do give certain gowns or certain things with which you can cover yourself. So cover yourself up as much as possible. Just because the doctor has to observe some part does not mean that the entire body should be exposed. What else? Swimming pools. And before that, the change rooms. Because sometimes it happens that even within places where Muslims go, where Muslim women go only, in change rooms it is such a sight that you have to lower your gaze and walk out or walk into the pool, or you don't know what to do. So remember that even in change rooms, even if it's all women, even if it's Muslim women, still we are not allowed to expose our awrah. We're not allowed to do that. What should we do? We should use the stalls that are available. And if, for instance, if there are no separate shower rooms that are available, you don't have to shower over there. You could also shower at home. So avoid such situations. Similarly, sometimes it happens that when a person is swimming, they're wearing such clothes that are extremely tight. So in that case, if you're wearing clothes such as that, don't walk around in those clothes all over, within the change rooms, all the way up to the pool. Have a big bath sheet with you, a big towel with you, cover yourself up, and as you're getting into the pool, then take it off. And in fact, what is better is that a person wears a big t-shirt on top that would cover parts of the body so that, it's not exposed. Similarly, for instance, over the legs, a woman can wear her tights so that her legs are covered. And on top of the tights, to be more comfortable, she can wear shorts so that her thighs are more covered, are not that much exposed. So, do as much as possible in order to cover your awrah. What else? In gym class, right? When people are changing, that's also one of the places where we should be concerned about covering up our awrah. Where else? For example, if a person goes for a massage to a spa, we discussed that earlier as well. So again, if a part of the body has to be massaged, it doesn't mean that the entire body is exposed, that the entire body is displayed. Yes, other people do whatever they do. We're concerned about us Muslims. Okay? That what are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to avoid? So for example, if a woman is wearing clothes that are extremely tight, so for example, skinnies, or leggings, or very tight tights, so those are inappropriate. Whether they're in the pool or they're outside the pool, they should be avoided. Now in the pool, okay, you're under the water, it's different. However, outside, you shouldn't be walking around with them. Even within your house, if you're wearing skinnies, it's inappropriate because the entire shape of the leg is being exposed. And you see, the thigh is something that should be covered. So for instance, it could be loose. You could be wearing a long shirt on it. Even within the pool, when a person is swimming, they should be concerned that the clothes that they're wearing, they should be tucked in properly so that as they're swimming or as they dive in or as they go through the water, the clothes don't come up to the surface so that their back is exposed. So we should be careful about such things. We should avoid clothes that are see-through. Clothes that are extremely tight and extremely see-through. So sometimes, for instance, at a wedding, a person could be wearing such clothes that are extremely short or extremely see-through because the fabric looks very nice. Or for instance, they're very tight, so we should be careful about such things. So we see that part of covering the awrah, part of protecting the furuj, is that a woman wears such clothes that are neither too tight, nor are they see-through. They should not be too tight and they should not be see-through. Now sometimes in the summers, people wear such clothes that are extremely thin. Like the fabric is very light, it's very thin, but unfortunately at the same time it's also very see-through. So be careful about that, especially when it comes to Indian Pakistani clothes. So you should be very, very careful that they're not see-through. Because if a person is trying to pray salah in those clothes even, it will not be acceptable. Because literally you can see the legs through the shalwar, you can see the arms through the sleeves. So be careful. Neither too see-through, nor too tight. So for example, summer is coming up. When you go out, whether it's for a picnic or for a walk or to the mall or to an amusement park with your children, remember to lower your gaze. What other people are doing, they're doing. They're accountable for themselves. However, we are accountable for what we do. So for example, if a person is wearing like a very nice dress jacket or a very tight cardigan, even if it's on top of an abaya, of a jilbab, it could be exposing parts of the body that should be covered. So make sure when you're wearing something like that, the chest is still covered with the hijab. Wear the hijab on top. Take out a part of it from the back, a little bit from the sides. When you wrap your hijab around, make sure that the flap that's onto the side, it's on the outside and not tucked into the hijab. Because then the purpose of the khimar, the purpose of the headscarf is that it should hide the upper body. It should hide the shape and the form of the upper body. And the upper body, remember, is not just the head. It includes the neck, it includes the shoulders, it includes the chest. So all the way down to below your chest, make sure that your khimar is such that it hides the upper body. Because remember that it's not just about covering, it's about hiding. Okay? Because what's the objective of wearing the khimar on the breast, on the chest, so that the chest is covered, it's not exposed. So if a person is wearing something, however, it's so tight that it defeats the purpose. Anything else with regards to this? When it comes to breastfeeding, as I mentioned to you earlier, some scholars, they say that the awrah of a woman in front of another woman is also from the navel to the knee, with the knees included. So if a woman is breastfeeding and part of her breast is exposed, it is okay. It is okay. It doesn't mean that she should always remain like that, but if for a genuine reason, if it is exposed, it's okay. It would be better to cover as much as possible. However, if the child is uncomfortable, if you are uncomfortable, and you must nurse in a place where other people are watching, then it's okay. But remember that other people should only be who? Other women, or like your husband. In front of the father, it's inappropriate. It's very, very inappropriate. In front of brother, very, very inappropriate. Because sometimes we just think, oh, it's my brother, it's my father, no big deal. It is a big deal. Similarly, if a woman has to nurse in public, where there are other people, then again, she should be extremely careful. And alhamdulillah, over here in this country, there's so many places available, nursing rooms available, where you can go and nurse with peace. So you don't trouble yourself. Be at ease and put your child at ease as well. And then what has been mentioned? وَلَا يُبْدِينَ زِينَتَهُنَّ إِلَّا مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا. That they should not expose their zina except that which is apparent by itself. So what does this show to us? That if a woman is wearing normal clothes, house clothes, whether they're very dressy or they're very plain and simple, the clothes of a woman, they are what? Zina. Regardless of how fancy, how plain they are. We're not concerned about how dressy they look. We're concerned about the clothes that a woman is wearing. So a woman is not allowed to show her clothes to non-mahram men, which means that she should be wearing a jilbab. Now remember that a jilbab for us is abaya. However, before, what would women wear? Long shawls, huge shawls. Ar-rida, it's a huge shawl that is worn on top of the clothes. So for example, if you live here and you're wearing an abaya, you go back home and you see your grandmother or your aunt and she's wearing a huge shawl, don't say that you're not supposed to be wearing this shawl, you're supposed to be wearing an abaya, because that is also acceptable. Because the purpose of this abaya, this outer clothing is what? To cover the clothes that you're wearing on the inside. I remember recently I visited Pakistan and I met one of my friends, and she belongs to a family that is extremely cultural. And there's no concept of wearing an abaya. If you wear an abaya, that's like not acceptable. Now she did not compromise on her religion. What did she do? When I saw her, she was wearing a huge shawl, and she had covered all her clothes with it somehow. I don't know how she had done it, but she had done it. And with that also, she had covered part of her face, and one of her hands was inside, and part of her other hand was showing. So she was completely covered. And her shawl was not see-through at all. So it was perfectly fine. So remember that the purpose of this abaya is, of this jilbab is, to cover up your inner clothes. So for example, in the winter, if a woman is wearing a jacket that's extremely long, that's going up to her feet, or that's just a little above the feet, that's also perfectly fine. Because when she's going outside, she has something on top. As long as the jacket is not bright colored or, with a lovely, beautiful pattern on it, which defeats the purpose of the abaya. So that's one thing. Secondly, remember that if a person is just wearing a dress, or if a girl is just wearing a long skirt, is that a part of abaya? Does that fulfill the purpose of the abaya? Or the jilbab rather? No. Because the dress that you're wearing, although it's long, it may even appear to be like a jilbab. the skirt that you're wearing, it may even appear to be a jilbab. However, it's not jilbab. What is it? It's your clothes. And you're supposed to wear something on top of that. Is it clear? So you have to wear something on top of that. And one more thing, that the hijab or the jilbab that a woman is wearing, it should not be such that it displays a lot of zina. That it's very zinati. That it's very beautiful. That it's covered in zina. So for that, we must remember that, first of all, the jilbab, it should not be such that it's very tight, that it reveals the figure. Because sometimes there are some abayas which are so tight on the sleeves. Recently I asked somebody to bring me an abaya from the Middle East, and they brought it. The sleeves were so tight, I felt as though I was wearing a normal shirt. In fact, it was even tighter. So I was very shocked because of that. And there are some sleeves which you can't even roll up to do wudu. So remember that the sleeves should not be too tight. Because if it's too tight, then it's just like a shirt. What's the purpose of the jilbab? The purpose is to cover your body. It's to hide your figure. Alright? So first of all, make sure that it's not too tight, that it reveals the arms and it reveals the figure, that sometimes they're so tight that literally the figure of the person is being exposed. It should not be such. Secondly, the fabric is also of great concern and importance. Like we should pay attention to the fabric as well. That the fabric should not be such that it's see-through. Because sometimes people are wearing abayas, but they're see-through. So be careful about that. Because if you're wearing pants underneath, and you're wearing an abaya that's see-through, and literally your pants are being seen, your legs can be seen very clearly, that defeats the purpose of the jilbab. So it should not be see-through. And also remember that it should not be too flashy. The material, the fabric of the abaya, it should not be too flashy such that it attracts attention. It should not be attracting attention. Now remember that it does not mean that the abaya or the shawl, whatever that a woman is using as a jilbab, it must be black. You are told to wear black over here. Why? For uniform. But it's not a must that it should be black. Because the color black has not been specified. What has been said? It should not be beautiful. It should not be having zina on it. So if it's a color such as dark blue, brown, beige, okay, gray, dull green, it's okay. As long as it's not a bright, flashy color that attracts a lot of attention. Like for example, a person's wearing like a pink abaya with a lovely light pink embroidery on it. I mean, it looks more like a dress. So just be careful about that. That the color should not be too flashy. It may be of a different color, however, it should not be too flashy. So for example, if a woman is wearing an abaya, it's a very plain color, like for example, even black, but it has some embroidery on it, it has some nice work done on it. Now remember that there are different levels. One is that it could be very subtle. For example, black embroidery on black. Black, those sparkly things, but it's black in color on black, and it's not that flashy. So it's okay. Similarly, if it's such that it does not attract too much attention, it's okay. But if, for example, you're wearing black and it has nice and lovely blue beads on the sides. I remember I saw an abaya like that. I thought it was so beautiful. Like blue beads, beadwork done on the sleeves, on the neck part, maybe towards the bottom, or like a big golden or silver or pink or purple or bright blue or bright yellow. These are things that draw attention. So it really depends on the color of the work, and it also depends on the amount of the work. The lesser, the better. Okay? Just remember that. Okay, one more thing. So this was with regards to the jilbab. What about the hijab? What kind of a hijab should a girl be wearing? I'm discussing all of these things because this is everyday thing, right? And we need to be clear about these matters. Because sometimes, just because we see somebody wearing a dark blue abaya, we're like, oh my God, she's not following the proper rules. Okay? So we should be clear on all of these things so that we ourselves are at peace and we let others be at peace as well. Okay? So what should the hijab be like? Again, same thing as the abaya. The color should be not too bright. So for example, if you're wearing a bright red hijab, it's going to be attracting a lot of attention, right? If it's a fluorescent color, it's a very bright color, it's going to attract a lot of attention. If it's blue, gray, green, beige, dull purple, it's okay. And what about the pattern on the hijab? What about the pattern on the hijab? What do you understand? Like a print. Plain is definitely better. Definitely better. However, if the print is very subtle, like for example, you have black, and on black you have a black thing. Okay, you know how some fabrics, they have a self-print. Okay? That would be okay. As long as it's not too much of a contrast and it does not attract too much attention. Sometimes you get these brand hijabs, big CK written on it, big, something or the other written on it. That attracts a lot of attention. I remember once this girl, she mentioned a story that was quite embarrassing, that she was at her work and this co-worker, he started discussing something with her about the hijab or something. And she was telling him, and he was like, oh wow, makes sense. And then he's like, what's written on your headscarf? And when he looked carefully, it said one of the brand names, and he's like, oh, I wear underwears of that brand. Just imagine. It's quite embarrassing. So avoid such things. Avoid such things, because you don't know how people are thinking. You don't know how other people are interpreting what you're doing, what you're wearing, how you're wearing it. So be as simple, be as subtle as possible. And if it's like a different color contrast, then if it's like, a shade, like for example, it starts with black, it ends with gray, that's different. It starts with dark blue, ends with light blue, it's different. As long as it's not too much of a contrast, as long as it does not attract too much attention, just remember that. Just remember that. It should not attract too much attention. So avoid flashy colors, avoid contrast prints, avoid color contrasts that attract a lot of attention. Sometimes the hijab may be very plain, but the pin that a girl is wearing, the hijab pin, the lovely hijab pin, on the black hijab you have the silver bright stars. So be careful, because they may attract a lot of attention. So that's something to be careful about. Sometimes the pins, they have bells, trinkets, or you can say beads that create sound as you walk. So first of all, as you walk, the light strikes off of them and they flash a lot. And secondly, they produce a lot of lovely sound. So that should be avoided as well. If you have a lot of such lovely printed, colorful hijabs and abayas as well as such pins, then what do? Remember that it really depends on where you're going. For example, if you're going to the grocery store, if you're going and you're going to end up stopping at the gas station, you're going to go inside to pay, and you're going to come across men, you're going to be dealing with them directly, wear as plain things as possible. If you're going to your friend's house, you're going to sit in your car, go to her house, and go over there. So in that case, if you are wearing something that is printed, but again, it's not that flashy such as bright pink, then it would be okay. I would consider it to be okay, because you know where you're going, who you'll be coming in front of, you're covered properly, you are wearing a jilbab that's covering your figure, that's covering your inside clothes. But the hijab that you're wearing, okay, it's on the zinati side, however, it's not that zinati and you're not going in front of men. So perhaps you could wear it on those occasions. But if there's too many, then what you do with them? If you have younger cousins, young girls that you know of, who have not yet reached the age of puberty, they're starting to wear hijab, perhaps you could give them, they could enjoy wearing them. For example, if you have such abayas which are very lovely colored, nice ones, embroidered ones, what you could do is wear like a jacket on top, like a long jacket on top when you're going outside. Use them in winter, okay, so that they're covered. I remember one of my friends, she used to have a lot of lovely, colorful, embroidered abayas. And she got these black, plain abayas which were open from the front. So she would wear those abayas as dresses, and then she would wear the black abaya on top. So you understand? So see what you can do, inshallah. Now remember that the purpose of the khimar is to cover the shape, the form of the upper body. And that includes the hair as well. So for example, if a person is wearing their hair in a particular way, that even through the hijab the hair is being exposed, then that is inappropriate. Like for example, sometimes girls, they wear their hair too up high. And on top of that, they'll put the pin. It looks very nice. However, it's inappropriate. Okay? That hadith that was mentioned earlier as well, that women whose heads are like the humps of camels, and such women, they will not even smell the fragrance of Jannah. Sometimes it's possible that at home you are wearing clothes such that, in which you cannot exactly pray salah in. perhaps you're just living with your husband and your top is not too big, or for instance your feet are completely being exposed because of what you're wearing, so you could wear those abayas to pray salah in. And remember what we learned, خُذُوا زِينَتَكُمْ عِنْدَ كُلِّ masjid. Yes, zina over there means clothes, however, it's better to beautify yourself for salah. So use those for that purpose. Now that we have learnt as to what we're supposed to do, comes the big task of actually implementing this. And when it comes to making yourself accept, when it comes to making yourself, make these decisions, then it's possible. But it becomes challenging when you have to take your family along. When you have to have other people accept that you will be wearing an abaya, for instance, or that you will be wearing a particular kind of hijab or whatever. Now, remember that, yes, other people can create difficulties for you. They can impose certain things on you. They can prevent you from doing what you want you to do, to an extent. However, there are some things that you can do. So start with what is in your hands. Like, for example, somebody doesn't object whether you're wearing a hijab or not. They object whether you wear an abaya. Okay, we'll get to that later, but let's focus on the hijab. What did we learn about the khimar? That it should be big enough that it covers the upper body. It should be plain and it should not be, displaying a lot of zina. So start with what is within your ability. Start with what is within your hands, what you can do yourself. So yes, if other people stop you, don't wear an abaya. They can't even accept the fact that you'll ever wear niqab. Don't go there yet. Start with what you can do yourself. And remember that when a person does whatever he can, whatever is within his ability, then Allah gives him tawfiq to do more. Because wearing the proper hijab is also part of tawfiq. It is also part of what Allah allows for a person to do, what Allah facilitates for a person to do. So no one is able to do anything good except with the tawfiq of Allah. So start with what you can do, and remember that if you do your best, if you do what you can do, then Allah will also open ways for you. But if you say, they don't want me to wear abaya, so forget about it, I'll just wear this bright pink hijab. I'm not supposed to be doing hijab. My family does not accept it. Therefore, don't even follow the basic rules. No. Do what you can do. Do what is within your hands. You're definitely accountable for that. And then gradually build it up. Gradually take it one step ahead. Educate your family. Educate your husband. Educate your parents. Tell them as well. Share this with them as well, so that they're also more accepting of this. So start with what you can do, and take baby steps, and keep making dua to Allah that, Ya Allah, you give me the tawfiq to do this. And inshallah, Allah will help you. And towards the end of the ayah, we learned about the various mahram and non-mahram men who are related to a woman. So there were certain questions about, or certain concerns about who is a mahram and who is not mahram. So first of all, just a few more things to add, that your daughters or son's father-in-law, your daughters or son's father-in-law, are you imagining their relationship? Are they mahram or not? No, they're not mahram. Because sometimes in family gatherings it happens, he is my daughter's father-in-law. He's like my brother. So they're not your mahram. Secondly, your niece's husband. Your niece's husband is also not your mahram. Whether your niece is your sister's daughter or your brother's daughter, her husband is not your mahram. And also your husband's nephews. Your husband's nephews, which means that your husband's brothers or sister's sons. Your husband's brothers or sister's sons, are they your mahram? No, they're not. But your own nephews, they are your mahram. You are allowed to display zina before them. So these three things, just remember them. Any questions or comments before we move on? Your father's father, grandfather, because some scholars, they include paternal and maternal uncle in the term aba. As a person learns about the commands that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given, if he does not implement them, if she does not implement them, then what happens? Implementing the commands that she learns later on are more difficult. They're more challenging. The response of a believer is what? Sami'na wa atarna. that if I believe that this is from Allah, if I believe that Allah has said this, then I have to do it. Even if it goes against my desires, even if it goes against the society. So remember that if you're unable to, or if you don't try to implement this command, then it will be more difficult to implement the commands that are going to come later on. And when we study the Quran, the purpose is not just to learn, okay, what's the meaning, what's the interpretation, okay, that's it. No, the purpose is that we implement. Because if a person does not implement the Quran, then it becomes a hujjah against him, an argument against him. That the Quran is going to complain to Allah that, Ya Allah, this person did not implement what he learned. So we should be very careful. If it seems difficult, if it seems very challenging, if it seems against the nafs, just tell yourself, this dunya is temporary. It's only for some time. And if I do this today, Allah will give me something better. Because we have learned so many times that it's not possible that a person leaves something for the sake of Allah, and Allah will not replace it with something that is better. Definitely Allah will replace with something that is better. Because many times girls have this fear that if I dress too plain, if I wear the abaya, if I wear the hijab, I'm not going to get married. Nobody's going to like me. This is a fear that shaitan puts in the heart of a person. الشيطان يعدكم الفقر ويأمركم بالفحشاء. Shaitan, he is the one who promises you poverty. And part of poverty that a person does not have a spouse. That a person does not have somebody to depend on. So this is from shaitan. Ignore this thought. When it comes to dressing up for other women, is that okay? It says in the ayah, أَوْ نِسَائِهِنَّ. It is permissible. Okay? So as long as a woman, if she's going to a party, if she's going to a wedding, if she has a get-together, and she has been dressed up, it's okay as long as it is within the limits that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed. That her awrah is covered. The shameful parts of the body are not exposed. The clothes are not see-through. The clothes are not extremely tight. They are not such that go against haya. Like for example, if a person is wearing clothes that are below the chest and the shoulders and the arms are completely exposed, okay, technically it may be okay. However, the chest is completely being exposed through the clothes and it's very tight on the waist. It goes against haya. It goes against haya. Because sometimes we think, oh, it's our culture that's made us like that and you should wear such clothes. No, it's not just about culture. It's about haya as well. So as long as the clothes are appropriate, and if a person is wearing makeup, if a girl is wearing jewelry, that's also okay, as long as it is within moderation. Like I mentioned that quote to you yesterday that somebody asked Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu that what kind of clothes should I wear? So he said that such clothes that would not bring the scorn of the weak-minded, that they would say that she's so underdressed, and at the same time, it would not bring the anger or the criticism of the wise, that they would say they're overdressed or they're doing israf. Okay? So a person should always dress in moderation and should refrain from kibr, that I'm the best, and always comparing yourself with other people and taking your own pictures again and again and again. I don't understand. People go to weddings and they're taking pictures of one another. And it's possible they're not even related to the bride and the groom. They're just distant, some friends or somebody, and they're taking their own pictures. Why? Because of this feeling, I look so good today. I look so nice today. So avoid such things. Yes, it's good to feel good. It's good to feel happy that, alhamdulillah, I look beautiful. Yes, it's nice. However, everything that a person does, there is a reason behind it. There should be a purpose behind that. And always check that, am I dressing up more for other people or am I dressing up more for my husband? Always have a balance in that. And if you say, I don't have a husband, then okay, enjoy for the time that you don't have one. And then when your husband comes, then don't let him ever criticize you. That I heard that before you got married, you used to dress up so much and now you don't dress up anymore. Don't give him a chance to blame you or criticize you. Okay, let's continue. And remember we learned about israf. Israf is what? Crossing the limits. Going too far off. It's not your sister's wedding, it's not your cousin's wedding, but still, it's not even a wedding. But still people are wearing clothes that would typically be worn at a wedding. You understand? Like at a party, people would wear clothes that would be worn at a wedding. So, just be moderate. Don't do israf. Don't do israf. Because imagine if at a party you're wearing clothes that should be worn at a wedding, what will you wear at a wedding then? This should be taught at a very young age. That when girls are very, very small, from that point on, they should be taught as to what is permissible, what is not permissible, what are the limits, what is, allowed. We should teach our children. A very good point recently, I was talking to one of my friends who just started niqab like a few days ago, literally. So I was just talking to him like, what prompted this? Like, how come? And she said she was having a discussion with one of the sisters, and she was discussing with her as to what colors of hijabs are okay and what colors are not okay. If prints are okay. So she was having this discussion with her. So the other sister, she told her that as long as it's a plain color, as long as it's a decent color, it's a decent print, it should be okay. So she said that, no, it's about the face. That it's possible that something is very plain, but it looks beautiful on someone. It's possible that something is very beautiful, but it does not look as beautiful on someone. So at the end of the day, it's your face. That is where all the beauty lies. So this is why many of the scholars, they say that وَلَا يُبْدِينَ زِينَتَهُنَّ, zina includes the face. Because that is where the beauty of a woman is. Tell me, if a guy wants to get married to a woman and he wants to see her, what is he going to look at? What is he going to look at? Can you show me your fingernails? No. He's going to want to look at the face. Right? And all of the schools of thought, they say that the feet of women are awrah. The feet must be covered. This is a unanimous opinion amongst all of the scholars. None of them disagree that a woman should cover her feet. And illa ma zahara minha, we discussed about that earlier. So when a man wants to get married to a woman, what does he want to look at? The feet or the face? The face. Are you trying to say that the feet are more beautiful than the face? It's possible that some people like beautiful feet. However, face is where the beauty lies. And I mentioned to you the two opinions that according to some scholars, covering the face and the hands is mandatory. And according to others, exposing the face and the hands is permissible, as long as there's no fitna. Now many times we focus on which opinion? The second one, right? In which we say that, it's preferable if a woman covers, however, it's not mandatory. And we highlight that opinion as if that is the only opinion. And the other opinion which says that no, covering the face is wajib, we ignore that completely. We have to be just. If we say that there are two opinions, then give importance to both the opinions. Don't just highlight one because you like it more. No. Give importance to both of them. And be realistic. Be practical. And honestly ask yourself. Ask yourself, where is the beauty of a woman? It's in the face. And if a woman has covered up properly, she's wearing hijab, she's wearing a proper abaya, and the only thing that's being exposed is her hands and her face, tell me what is going to be very obvious? What is going to stand out? The face. Is the attention going to go on the shoulders? Not really. It's going to go onto the face. What a beautiful example. That imagine you have a lovely house, a beautiful house, and you close all the doors, all the windows from where a thief could possibly come in, but you leave the main door open. The main door, you leave it open. What's going to happen? The thief is going to come in. So the face of the woman is the main door of the house. A very important point, that hijab is not just about covering yourself. It's not just about wearing something on your head, on your body, on your face, but it's also in the manner that a woman carries herself, in the manner that a woman behaves. So for example, if you have your hijab, your niqab on, but your eyes are like standing out, staring at everybody, you're not lowering your gaze, it does not give the image of a decent woman, even through the niqab. Similarly, if a woman is talking, but she's talking in an inappropriate way, she's joking, she's laughing, she's very relaxed, when talking to non-mahram men, that's inappropriate. So remember that hijab is not just about wearing something on your head, but it's about the way you carry yourself. That be careful about how you walk. Be careful about how you run or how you talk, in the way you carry yourself. If, for example, if a woman is wearing a niqab and the only thing that's standing out are her beautiful, lovely eyes, so in that case, they would be attracting a lot of attention. This is why, if you're wearing niqab, you should be careful about what you put on your eyes, because sometimes women will be wearing mascara, they'll be wearing makeup on their eyes, and obviously their eyes are really going to stand out at that time. However, if the eyes are being exposed, because obviously she has to look. According to some scholars, even cover your eyes, which is why you will see women even covering their eyes. However, other scholars, they include that in إِلَّا مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا, except for that which is apparent by itself. Meaning she's trying to cover as much as possible. But still, if something is being exposed, then she's not blameworthy. Okay? But again, it really depends on how you look with your eyes. If you're wearing the niqab, but like you're staring at someone and you have your eyes wide open and you're talking to them, and your eyes are saying everything, then it's not proper hijab. So you see, it's only possible with the tawfiq of Allah. If you make the intention, if you want to do it, but you find it difficult, make dua to Allah that, Ya Allah, remove this difficulty from my heart. Remove this constriction, this haraj that I feel in my heart. Take it out of my heart so I'm able to do it. I'm able to please you. I'm able to do this as well. This is also very important. That if, for example, if you're wearing the hijab, if you're wearing the niqab, then you find somebody else who's not doing it, don't become judgmental. Don't say, oh, they know and still they don't do it, and look at them, they're so bad, this is hypocrisy. No. Don't go on passing judgments. You don't know what kind of struggles they're going through in their life. But it's your duty that you should remind, that you should advise. Maybe you could discuss it with them. Maybe they're having a problem and they can't come up with a solution. If you have a talk with them, it'll help them. So, don't be judgmental. Talk to other people. Help them. Where women are allowed to adorn themselves, it should be done within the limits that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set. So for example, if a girl is wearing hijab and she's made her eyebrows, she's shaped them, this is inappropriate. I know there's a lot to discuss. Don't worry, this topic is going to come again soon, inshallah. Let's listen to the recitation of these verses from the beginning. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.